Hey everyone, Andrew Chalman here with a series on how to create a composed beat in Maschine. I did a series a couple months back about how to create a sampled beat, and that covered the process of slicing and sampling and stuff like that. And I figured I would do a series on sort of a different take on beat creation, something I'm calling composing, and that just means using different VSTs, different samples, and not using any samples sort of as the foundation of your project. Okay, so this is all going to revolve around melodic content, and I do a lot of this with my complete instruments. So I've saved the process of browsing and sort of selecting instruments in this video, and I already have everything that I want to use loaded up. So I'll go ahead and start with my first instrument over here, and this is a nice orchestral sounding sort of bell sound that I can use to create the main melody of this project. So the process I go through when I want to work on one of these beats is just loading up an instrument and then going into keyboard mode on the Maschine and playing around with different scales and different chords and just sort of messing around until I find something that catches my ear. So for this I use the new feature in Maschine 2.2 and using the scale option over here. So I turned it from chromatic over to minor, and then I have the pads that are going to allow me to play that minor scale. And once I had this going, I just played around with a bit and just figured out something that that I figured could be sort of the backbone, the melody of the rest of this project. So I played around here, and then I like this sort of falling melody. So it starts, it has these cool little intervals here, and then you can also I developed a little bit to bring in some other notes, some other root notes. So. And for sure, it can kind of seem like in me showing you how to do this, it may seem like I'm just kind of showing you the finished project. And it's a little bit of a tricky process to find a melody that works for you. But honestly, this just came from trying different sort of shapes on the pads. So I just kind of throw my fingers on the pads, and I have a little bit of a music theory background, so that helps. But I would just recommend to get this first melody, just to play around on the pads and find something that sticks out and sort of goes with your personal preference. So anyways, like I said, I had this melody going here, and I wanted to go ahead and record this in. So what I'm going to do here is just create a new pattern, make it 4 bars long, and then I'm going to turn my pad mode over onto fixed velocity and bring the fixed velocity down a little bit, around 90, and that is just going to help me play these and not get any really quiet notes or really loud notes, make it a little bit easier. So I have a pattern loaded up, and I'll just go ahead and record in that first melody that I came up with. So here we go. And I also did some quantization just to make sure everything is in line. I can maybe undo that and then do 50%, keep a little bit of that human groove to it, and then I have my main melody locked in. So that is going to just be my first pattern. It's going to be a very sort of bare bones pattern, and while I'm at it, I like to create a new one, and I'm going to develop this pattern here to be sort of the verse pattern. So I'm already thinking ahead. I'm already thinking of what I want to create this project as. So this is going to be my first verse pattern, and then I'll add some instruments and create more verse patterns sort of in these 4 slots down here. And then I want to use these 4 pads over in this row to create my my chorus pattern. So I'll go ahead and create a new pattern up here, make this 4 bars long, and in this one I'm going to just record the same notes, but instead of breaking those up into sort of those arpeggios, I'm just going to play the chords. And that's going to give me sort of another pattern that's similar but also different, and that's going to let me create the chorus and with some different instrumentation. So I'll go ahead and load that pattern up and make sure it's 4 bars long, and go ahead and record that as well. So now we have a sort of backbone, a foundation for the rest of this project. I have a verse, and I have a chorus. So from here, it's time to add different instruments. So I'll go ahead and exit this, and I have a cool little staccato French horn patch from Contact, and I'm going to go ahead and go back into keyboard mode here, and I want to work with my chorus pattern, and I'm going to bring in some cool melody ideas here. Following the same notes, I'll bring the octave down, and I played around with this and came up with an idea that sounded like this. So that's cool because it isn't really drowning out the rest of the instruments, but it gets this cool little additional sound, follows the same notes, but just adds some cool some background to this chorus. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this over here, and that's just going to make sure I have my my original one to work with if I want to go back. Why isn't that? Okay, we're good. I'll go ahead and record in those French horns. So go ahead and do that now. And we have our chorus starting to develop as well. Now on the verse side of things, I don't really want to add any horns at the moment. I figure I can go ahead and add these in later when it's time to just add some additional little licks and some additional little melodic elements. So I also wanted to bring in some more instruments, and you might notice that I'm doing a lot of work with the instruments and not the drums yet, and this is what I usually tend to do. I tend to get the instruments loaded up and get them pretty developed before I even go into the drums. So I have, let's see, I have some sustained strings over here, and I want to go ahead and add these to my verse. So go ahead and go into keyboard mode. What I'm going to do here is go into pad mode and go over to the chord and turn that on to octave. And that's just going to give me some more sonic content there, sort of doubling the strings up. And I'm going to follow again the same notes here and just add some additional texture to this chorus. So I'll go ahead and duplicate this pattern over and record in some strings. So I think I said I was going to record that for the verse, so I'll go ahead and do that as well. I'll duplicate my verse over and do the same recording on top of that. So now I have a developed verse and developed chorus, and it's just going to be a sort of building block for when it comes time to arrange this. I have one more instrument over here. Let's go ahead and go over to my, I think these are trombones. I'm going to go ahead and bring the octave down. There we go, get some nice deep horns. I'm just going to play around with these and find something that works both for the verse and for the chorus. So a lot of beat creation for me is just playing around on the pads and really just messing around until something works out. So in doing this with the trombones here, I found a cool little melody that I think I can add to the chorus. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same process, creating a copy of that pattern, and then going ahead and recording in what I just came up with. So I hit a hard note on one of those, so I just went ahead into the software and brought that down, and now we have a chorus that sounds like this. And it's always a good idea to see how the verse transitions into the chorus. So we might need to do some finessing with the transitions, maybe mess with those strings to sort of bring the verse into the chorus. But the point is we have two separate sections that work pretty well together. Now that we have these developed with the instruments, we can go ahead and start working on the drums. So that will be in the next video.